It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, June 26th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's just going with the flow, Russ.
Everything's out in the wind. It's like there's nothing that you can count on.
There is nothing. We've got some potential big deals that may or may not happen to talk about. NHL Awards predictions, plus it's Monday, so we'll have our Nemesis of the week.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube. We're also on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And speaking of subscribing over at YouTube, as of recording, which is sort of late morning on Sunday, that'll also affect our news reports here. We are so close to the next milestone of 900 subs. So as soon as we hit that mark, we'll announce the next giveaway. And just a hint, this one is autographed. So you're not going to want to miss that one. Russ, I just mentioned we are recording late morning on Sunday, and so things could change, and we will address that as it happens. But in the meantime, the biggest trade rumor out there, obviously, is a potential blockbuster with St. Louis that could send Kevin Hayes and potentially Travis Sanheim to St. Louis for either Scandella or Torrey Krug, but we'll get to that asterisk there and get in return probably some prospects and definitely one of St. Louis's late first round picks. And this one has been on hold because of a no trade clause in Torrey Krug's contract, and he does not want to waive it for Philadelphia. There's a possibility that the Flyers are trying to flip him to another team where he is willing to go, but this one is a doozy.
It is. First off, somebody's brunch plans might get interrupted, but I guess that's the downside of it.
Look, we're just making coffee at home and waiting, right?
Yeah, you can't make brunch plans this time of year. We've talked about Travis Sanheim before, and even though not lately, I thought they'd have tried to trade him at the deadline last year. Before the no move kicks in, and now they're trying one last time before the no move kicks in. And this is why it's happening. It's not happening because he's a bad defenseman, and it's not happening because he's bad in the room. It's happening because it's a bad deal for what you see playing under John Tortorella. That's the problem. So now, if he goes somewhere else, I think his defensive game can get back on track. Offensively, though, he has really never produced. And that's the thing. So they sort of paid him like he's got some offense in his game, but his defense is good and he's going to log a lot of minutes. I would say 75% of that is true. So at this point, you're looking for another team to say, all right, look, the Flyers are bad. We can do better with him. And we'll take the risk, but to mitigate that risk, here's what we'll give you. And so I think that's why he's in there. But, the fact is, when this deal happened, they spread it out over all those years to keep the AAV down because he was coming off a good year. Now that he's not coming off a good year, it looks bad.
Yeah, it's a real dilemma here because I think we all know that contract that Sanheim got for $6.25 million. And it's really the term that's the bigger issue here through 2031, which is a lot to pay a guy like that.
That's a long time down the road, man.
Yeah, and to have bet on him panning out in a way that he didn't, I certainly understand the betting on him. I think that he has a lot of potential, and in a different system, he thrives a lot more. So I think moving him would help him individually. I think you're right there, but for the Flyers, it's one of those you look back and say, no, that deal probably shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it
And
didn't age well.
it did
It
not
didn't even
age
get to
well.
chance. Actually, it didn't even get a chance to age.
No, because it's kicking in this upcoming season. But I do think that it is interesting, this whole potential deal overall. Now, whether they can separate, what Hayes is in exchange for and what Sanheim may or may not be in exchange for, and should this Torrey Krug thing be a roadblock, maybe they'll be able to figure something out for one or the other of these players with St. Louis, depending on what the terms of the deal are behind the scenes. But I think that it's it, it's a really tough pill to swallow, because if you look at, potential salary retention as well, because I think with both of them, you're going to have to retain salary. And if
Yeah.
it's up to 50% for Kevin Hayes and it's up to say 25% for Travis Sanheim, which seems reasonable on
Yeah.
that deal for a
Yeah.
second pairing defenseman.
Sometimes they negotiate it to a point where it's like 18.25%. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it
Yeah.
gets crazy.
Yeah, let's just say 25%. That's 1.562 million, which I think, if you're going to say, yeah, if we're going to have that as a cap hit for 3-4 years, and by the time the Flyers are really good, it won't matter anymore. Sure. But this is a long time to have that sitting on your cap. And especially when the cap this year is only going up that 1 million, it really throws a wrench between Hayes and Sanheim of being able to do anything creative at the deadline, let's say.
Right. That's where it holds you back, because that's where the dead money's like, how close are you to the cap because of the dead money? And sure, every year it goes by, you get a little further away from the dead money. But as far as the creativity, that's where it hurts you, because as an example, just giving an example, folks, let's say they do have their mind set on trading Carter Hart. Okay. So you're going to trade Carter Hart, you get what you get. But then what if all of a sudden the right goalie is out there for them in the market, like in a year or two? You got to make sure you could take on that contract if that's what it is, because maybe it's not Sam or son. And I'm just saying that they're probably not doing that for a goalie, but I'm just using that as a position. But you never know who might become available in the market. And when you have to get that player in a trade and want to re-sign them, and if that player is young enough where it fits in your plans, do you have the money? And that's the worry here, is like, if you're eating on 3 players, let's say, and I know DeAngelo would be just for this year, but we're going to throw him in there just because if you're eating money on 3 players, there is a downside to it. It's not like this money just disappears quickly.
Yeah, it's just a struggle, because if you're eating money on all 3 of those guys, let's say for this year, that could be upwards of $7 million on your cap going nowhere. And then for the next couple of years, it's another 5 million, 5+ million on your cap. And I think that's a really difficult thing to buy into. And I think that I certainly respect where Danny Briere is going with this. I think all of these are really good ideas in terms of getting, a player like Kevin Hayes out, who really, like, the fit just isn't right now. And we talked about a buyout potential, and I said I didn't want to do it
No, I wouldn't do the
because,
buyout either.
right.
And to remind
And this
people,
is similar, but it's also very different in terms of how the cap hit would be, and in terms of then you actually get a return, right?
yeah,
It's
you actually
not
get a
just a
return. It's
buyout.
not just a buyout, right? But again, I felt like if they could just live with him through the trade deadline this year, uh, teams might look
Yeah.
at him differently, because if he's having another good year, then
Yep.
they might be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you don't have to retain as much. It would be better for you. But this just tells you how badly John Tortorella wants to get rid of Kevin Hayes, and the organization's trying. That's what this tells you. That's the underlying thing here. It doesn't matter what Danny Briere says in the press conference when he talks about Kevin Hayes and says good things. This is why.
Yeah. In the meantime, mentioning Tony DeAngelo and Carolina, potential deal in the works there, assuming for a player in return, maybe with some retained salary or not. And that is to be determined. It apparently hit a snag at some point in the process, but we'll keep an eye on that potential as well. And the Canes just re-signed Jordan Stahl for $2.9 million, which is actually, pretty good, I think.
That's good. I mean, he's a lifer there. He started out in Pittsburgh, got traded there and just stayed there. So, and he's been really good for them.
Yeah, and then the Flyers, in the meantime, in the midst of all the rumors, announced their re-signing of Louis Belpedio, which, like, the timing was just
yes.
chef's kiss.
No, like in today's era of Flyers, if they wanted to just get me to like laugh at a signing, it was that one.
Oh my God, it was so perfect. But all kidding aside, like I said on Twitter, Louis Belpedio has been a real solid contributor to the Phantoms, and I'm very happy to have him back and available there. They gave him a $25K bump on the NHL salary potential, which is perfectly reasonable. And so, hopefully we'll see him up in Lehigh Valley again.
Yeah, and that's where he should be, and that's fine.
Yeah, and so much going on. We will continue to keep track of all the latest news with potential deals, and we'll see, if we have to do another episode today.
I don't even want to comment.
All right. In the meantime, the NHL Awards are on your televisions tonight, so we're going to give our predictions coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
After today's show, be sure to check out Locked On's 2023 NHL Mock Draft Special. The local hosts of the Locked On NHL channel have made their picks, including us. And Locked On NHL hosts Gil Martin and Hadi Kalakashi break down every selection over a 3-day mock draft event. Find the episodes on the Locked On NHL channel over on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Russ, the NHL Awards are tonight, and we're going to hit on, the top awards and talk about who we think might go home with them. I want to start with the Calder. And to me, this one is or should be an easy choice in Matty Beniers. But Owen Power and Stuart Skinner are the other two nominees. I think Skinner would be the alternate choice for me, but goalies, that's hard for them to win the Calder.
It is hard. I go Matty Beniers all day long. I mean, look at the difference he was able to make with that team this year. He's strong up the middle, the skating and everything else, the scoring. He was just hard to handle. He was a really impact player.
Yeah, I think so too. And so I would be shocked if it's anybody other than Matty Beniers tonight. The Selke Award. Now, this one is interesting to me because we have, they should actually just build a statue with like Selke Award and put Patrice Bergeron there.
Yeah.
Because he's been there forever and it seems like he will be. But the other two finalists are Nico Hischier and Mitch Marner. And I love Mitch Marner as a player, and I think he has a right to be a finalist here. However, I think the future of this award is Nico Hischier, and the fact that he's here with Patrice Bergeron, could this be the year that Nico Hischier topples Patrice Bergeron and takes over the mantle just because of how successful a season he individually had in the context of a developing New Jersey Devils team?
No. But it's nice to think about that it could happen. I had Hischier on the list. I can't find my list because I did vote. But no, Bergeron's winning again. It's just going away present. Yeah, it's just going away.
It could be. Could be.
He was really good. Don't want to think like he hasn't earned. Don't want to say like,
sure,
like he hasn't earned it. He still earned it.
No, I mean, he was such a big part of why Boston had the regular season that they did. And so you cannot deny he's still got it. I just think like the fact that you sort of have the de facto like next one in line just sitting right there we'll certainly see what happens, but I would not be surprised either way. So the next one I want to talk about is the Norris Trophy. And I think this one should be a slam dunk for Erik Karlsson, given the season that he had. You also have Cale Makar and Adam Fox, who I think were more in the race last year than this year specifically. But, Erik Karlsson just having a season or a career level season, I think to me is the no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I think the other guys are in the race. It's just no one's in the race with Erik Karlsson. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They're all in the race to fill up the rest of the ballot. And one of the guys that I put on there that I remember was Josh Morrissey, who apparently didn't get a lot of love. And I don't know why. He was amazing this year, but I remember I put him on the ballot.
Yeah, I love Josh Morrissey, one of my favorite defensemen in the league. And but it's hard to say, okay, Adam Fox, Cale Makar, one of you has to sit in order for Josh Morrissey to be there. Remember when the finalist list came out, and I was like, this is a tough one because I'm not sure who you'd replace here to put Josh Morrissey in. It's a really, really tough category. And then, of course, the big one is the Hart Memorial Trophy. And Connor McDavid, what can you say other than epic season, just incredible output. David Pastrnak, of course, again, a huge part of why Boston was so successful in the regular season. And Matthew Tkachuk, a huge part of the Florida Panthers and their sort of renaissance this past season. Although it feels like he stood out more in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. But I think that's also, a recency bias in my mind. So I'll admit to that. But, I do think that, there's no choice. If you're looking at the regular season, it's Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid, come up and get your award. It's pretty obvious. Just don't put that award in your all-black kitchen because it isn't horrible.
I thought it was an all-white kitchen.
No, I think he has an all-black kitchen. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure it's
Either
all white.
way, it looks bad. I didn't like his kitchen.
I hate all white kitchens, and I remember the visceral reaction to his kitchen that I had.
Hold on. No, it's all black.
But
it's
is
where
it
it is.
Black?
The cabinets are all black, and then he's got like a white marble thing in the middle, whatever you call that. Sitting area. That's where, because a lot of chairs, but it's all black.
Could be.
And it's awful. Like,
nobody
wants countertops like floor to ceiling black. It just looks
that is true. It's hard to keep clean. All right, we should save that for our Nemesis section later in the show. But so those are the big skater awards. Of course, there's other ones, but I think they're less important, or they're based on community service or personal experience. It's weird to talk about those in a competitive sort of way. But
the Lady Bing I refuse to talk about.
No,
even though I vote on it. I don't like the Lady Bing at all.
It's still, I don't know why they still have it. But the Jack Adams Award, I think, is also an interesting one to think about, just because, again, this is a regular season award and you have to put the playoffs out of your head. And so you have your finalists are Dave Haxtell, Jim Montgomery from Boston, and Lindy Ruff from the Devils. And I mean, the potential awkwardness of Jim Montgomery winning this award, incredible. Absolutely incredible to me, but it would not be undeserved. That's the thing.
No, I think he's going to win it. I think Montgomery deserves it. I'll be thankful because he'll have a good take on it. If Dave Haxtell wins it, we're going to fall asleep.
Well,
with his speech.
But I do think what he did,
and he had a great year.
He had a great year. All that aside, and our Flyers feelings about him aside, he had a tremendous year with Seattle. Was able to pull them out of a rut at one point in the season, with a great run toward the end of the season. Really solid playoffs for their first time around.
This is not just a Flyers feeling. This is a North Dakota feeling too. I covered him there too, and he was boring, but he's a good guy. I like him as a guy. Believe me.
And then Lindy Ruff actually took the Devils, I think, a lot further than people would have expected for this.
Well, considering they wanted him fired at one point, the fans, they called for him to be fired and then apologized like a month later. Like, that's wild. So,
I'm just
it's just
fascinated by how this category is going to turn out, because anyway it turns out, it's going to be interesting. I think.
No, it will be.
And, worth some discussion and maybe some chuckles on the side. But, and then the other management award is the Jim Gregory GM of the Year award.
They should abolish this, because you can't have the GMs voting for their own award. Like, you just get rid of it.
Well, I don't know that you have to get rid of it if you have other people voting on it. But
GMs get to vote on this, correct?
Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely true.
Okay, Rachel, let's do the Locked On Award. Let's vote on that now. Which one is the best show? I'm going to vote on Locked On. I'm going to vote for Locked On Flyers for the best show. I'm not sure about you, but that's who I'm going to vote for.
Well, but most of these, it's like Eurovision. You can't vote for your own country. I think that these are all.
Is that a soccer reference for people as dumb as me?
No, Eurovision is the big song competition.
Oh my God, I don't think everybody knows that. So okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a cultural tentpole, and if you are not aware, that is on you, friend. Okay.
The way she said "friend," it's not so friendly, but okay, that's fine.
So the finalists are Jim Nill from Dallas, Don Sweeney from Boston, and Bill Zito from Florida. And I think what Bill Zito did in Florida in terms of, restructuring significantly a team that was the President's Trophy winners, and then they flamed out in the playoffs. He made big changes, and lo and behold, they get to the Stanley Cup final. And to me, that's the accomplishment here. No, no shade to Jim Nill, who I think did a remarkable job in Dallas. And of course, Don Sweeney holding that core together that's an accomplishment too. But you got to give it to Bill Zito, right?
Yeah, I would give it to Zito. I'm sure Bill Zito would give it to Bill Zito. I don't know who Jim Nill's going to vote for, though. Who do you think Jim Nill's voting for?
Oh, God. He's probably voting for Don Sweeney, I think. But all right. So those are NHL Awards predictions, snarky or not. But we'll see who winds up getting them. And we will certainly eat whatever crow we need to on a future episode about that. But in the meantime, we do have our Nemesis of the week, and we will get to that coming up next. Before we get to our Nemesis of the week, over the weekend, the draft rumors are continuing to swirl, which has led some people to think the Flyers have more of a chance at Michkov because of the Habs might being in for Ryan Leonard, and then Reinbacher to Arizona. Smith might get chosen by San Jose. So do you think that Michkov to the Flyers could be a bigger possibility than we've been thinking so far?
No, I think it's less of a possibility, because now that teams can talk to Michkov, I think more teams will want him. I think when teams couldn't talk to him, then the Flyers had a really good chance of getting him. So I think it's the opposite. I think he won't be there like Briere initially said, because once teams talk to him, I think there's going to be a few that say, all right, you know what? Yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll have more to say about that on tomorrow's show.
He is in Manhattan, though. He did take a picture on Instagram.
He did. I know. He was very near me at one point.
Okay.
He was just blocks away from where I was at that time. So
could have passed him on the street.
Could have. All right. Our Nemesis of the week. Last week we talked about second guessing the Flyers draft pick strategy, and just we're getting to the time where we're overthinking it a little bit, and if this, then this, and just that swirl kind of getting to us was the Nemesis. For this week, I think there are two Nemesis. First off, because of all of the trade rumors out there, just kind of the waiting on that is a Nemesis in and of itself. But I think the other Nemesis for me is because the NHL is back to a normal schedule, so to speak, in terms of the timing of their things like the draft and then free agency. So free agency starts on July 1st again this year, which it hasn't because of COVID and the schedule. And so this week is absolutely bonkers. We have the draft, and then it just goes immediately, it seems like, with just a day in between of break to to free agency on Saturday. And so this week is going to be bonkers with a lot of moving pieces and parts around the league.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. My nemesis will just be the airlines because, like, every time I try and catch something, I can't. So, as an example,
In
I
terms
gave
of
my
a cheaper flight.
no, I can get the cheap flights, but what I can't do is try and line up when there's like a media availability, and I've given myself like 7 hours to be able to do that on the same day because I can't get there the day before to make sure I'm really there. And like last time with the Stanley Cup, couldn't do it, and so now like there's a media availability before the draft, and now we get in there maybe with like a half hour to spare. Now this is after our flight got pushed already. Our flight got changed going from Newark to Nashville about a month ago. So it was supposed to be a 7 a.m. flight. Now it's a 9 a.m. flight. So, I could just see the writing on the wall, Rachel. It's like, I won't miss the draft, but it's some of those other things. Like I can't control them anymore because the airlines are so bad. So that's my nemesis, is the airlines in general. This is why I like to drive.
Yeah, it's a tough life logistically trying to make things work to be where you want to, when you want to. I think that the logistics of everything going on in Nashville will be something to watch,
Oh
especially
yeah.
like we just talked about with the Mitchkov conversations. When are they going to happen? What order are they going to be happening in? And will that give any indication as to what's going to happen in terms of who might pick him, and if he's choosing to talk to a certain team first, is that a hint, or is it just a scheduling and logistics thing like we
Right.
were just talking about? So going to be a lot of armchair prognosticators out there trying to dig into all of that and figure out what it means.
I mean, they're going to interview Mitchkov at like a honky tonk. That's what I would do. I would bring him into one of those honky tonks and just say, all right, let's talk.
We're going to literally sit on saddles instead of bar stools and have this conversation. I love bars like that. I think they're fun.
Yeah, listen, I've done the electronic mule or whatever you call it. I've done that. It's hard. I wouldn't do it at my age. The bull ride. Yeah, I wouldn't do it at my age now.
No.
But I did do it when I went to school in Houston. I did it. They're fun.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never done that before.
You've never done it? Mm.
No, because I think it would break me. I've never. No.
I mean, I do ride horses, so maybe that's partly why I was not afraid. But who knows?
All right, we're gonna wrap things up with the Flyers fun thing, and of course, it is gritty on the fire truck. As it is gritty on the fire truck as they reopened I-95 in Philadelphia with the other mascots around the Philadelphia area. Of course, the Fanatic was there, and I believe the Sixers mascot was there, and Swoop, and all of that. So what a tremendous effort to get a 95 back open, and is the most Philly thing ever to have all the mascots on a fire truck.
Listen, it was amazing. I appreciate it because I have to go and meet up with a buddy that I'm taking the flight with and have to go on I-95. And I figured there's no way this is going to be ready. I will give tremendous credit to Philadelphia and to Joe Biden for funding it, because if he didn't do that, I don't think any of this would have happened this quickly. And so it really is a true amazing thing if you think about it.
It really is. And, just got to do it up Philly style, I guess. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Of course, we will be back tomorrow, and everydayers can look forward to the latest in draft news as we get closer. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. Send in your questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Stay tuned and have a great day, everyone.